And welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show, ladies and gentlemen. And joining us right now is Oklahoma Congressman Tom Cole, Majority Whip in the House of Representatives. Congressman, welcome aboard the Steve Malzberg Show, sir.
Hey, Steve, great to be with you.
Well, great to have you. Let's start with the obvious. And I saw you on CNN earlier today, and you really have to drum into the heads of these people that do the interviews as you did. To them, it's all about, could the website be fixed? Can Obama, turn people's belief in him around? It's not about the website, as you so correctly point out. It's about a disaster of a policy.
It really is, and frankly, if they get the website fixed, people are just going to find out faster how bad it's going to be for them individually. There are millions of people who are going to lose their insurance, who are going to see their rates go up. Who are going to have pay for more coverage than they want in some cases, or get less coverage than they're paying for in others. So it really is a fundamentally flawed policy, and I think the White House is doing the best they can to put a bad or a good face on a really bad situation.
Now, to me, one of the headlines that was, has gone virtually unnoticed and on purpose by the media, when Kathleen Sebelius testified before the House, and she admitted that, a convicted felon might have access to your information if you're giving it to him on the computer, on the phone. They go through it as navigators. We had no background checks for people. And now you couple that with 4 security experts who a few weeks ago testified also before the House, I forget which committee, and when asked, is the website secure, you heard 4 words from 4 different people: no, 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 no. And now comes a story yesterday where you guys had a hacker testifying that the security of Obamacare website is almost non-existent.
Yeah, it's almost comical if it wasn't so serious about how many flaws there are in this, how many mistakes have been made, how many hundreds of millions of dollars. We've spent close to $500 million developing this website up to the point of launch. Goodness knows how much they've spent trying to fix it in the last 6 or 8 weeks. So it just is an unfolding debacle, and it's never ending. I was talking to one of my Republican colleagues today, and he said, I knew we were right when we were making our argument against this in 2009 and 10, but I didn't know how spectacularly right we were. This is really bad policy for the American people.
A Harvard poll, a millennials poll out today, found only 22% of young Americans, defined as between 18 and 29, 22% of them plan to sign up for Obamacare, and even more troubling for the administration, fewer than a third, 29% of people who currently do not have health insurance plan to enroll. So on that premise, if that's a fact, then even if everything else were working brilliantly and this was a wonderful policy, and it couldn't sustain itself based on these numbers.
It really can't, and I think what we're going to see next year, number one, obviously we're going to see businesses come under the mandate, and I think that means a lot of businesses, quite frankly, are going to get sticker shock and drop insurance and pay the fine, put their people on the exchanges, maybe give their folks a little boost in pay, but it won't cover what they're losing. The other thing you're going to see, I think, for the people that do get enrolled, because the composition of this pool is so skewed toward people that are older and sicker, from what we can tell, you're going to get real rate shock next year. I mean, the initial rates, which are already higher than what many people are paying, are going to go up yet again. So, again, I don't see a way out of this mess for the president. And frankly, for a lot of Democrats who voted for it, who made the exact same promises that the president made, he's never going to have to run again. But most of them are, and I think they're going to be held accountable at the polls.
We're talking to Congressman Tom Cole, a Republican from Oklahoma. He's the Majority Whip of the House here on the Steve Malzberg Show. So where are we going to be? I mean, I keep hearing Debbie Wasserman Schultz and some others talk about how Democrats are going to run on Obamacare. And here's the thing, Congressman, their argument, and even, of course, when the media gets someone like you on, usually they'll say, well, where's your plan? They weren't hostile to you today, I don't think. Where's your plan? What's your solution? Nothing? I don't know, maybe the strategy is stand back and let this debacle unfold, which I'm fine with, but what would it hurt if you guys came up with, a 1 or 2 page plan that you could show to the American public and hold it in contrast to the 1,800 pages, which ruins our lives, and say, here's our plan, take some of the good points from the plan that's already been passed, like people want to keep their kids on insurance till they're 200 years old, give it to them, and say, here is our plan, instead of letting these leftists in the House, in the Senate, and in the media continually say Republicans have, and the president yesterday, Republicans have no plan. I know it's not true, but could you pass something, or are you against passing something right now?
No, I'm not against passing something. I actually agree very much with the point that you're making. The Republican Study Committee, I think, has the most comprehensive Republican alternative, and it's got over 110 co-sponsors in the House now. It's a very, solid, thoughtful, plan based on really sound conservative principles. Tom Price has a very good alternative plan. He's a physician from Georgia and one of our leading thinkers on health care. There's actually over 200 Republican-sponsored pieces of legislation that deal with health care. But I think the point you make is a really important one. Actually putting one on the House floor and passing it, I think would be an enormously smart thing for us to do and say, well, if you don't like how this thing is working, and we know most Americans don't, here's our alternative. We're not going to be able to get it through the Senate. The president's certainly not going to sign it.
Right.
But we want you to know what it is.
Right.
And we should do that. We should take that argument away from them.
Yeah, just to shut them up, because that's their only talking point. Now, let me ask you this. One thing I would like to talk to you about besides immigration. Well, let's say immigration first, and that is, John Boehner signaled his willingness in the eyes of many to consider an amnesty bill. He hired a longtime policy aide who has advocated legitimizing undocumented immigrants. Eric Cantor is talking about, the KIDS Act or the DREAM Act. Paul Ryan says we're going to do this. Now, you're not going to take up the Senate bill, but a lot of people are concerned on the right in conservative circles that, and there's a report that Boehner is waiting until after candidates could register to run for House seats. So, in other words, he's trying to pull, according to the report, pull the wool over the eyes of people, thinking he's not going to go tough on immigration or hard for immigration reform until after Tea Party candidates could register against incumbents, and then once they don't register, then he'll unleash it. So is that report true in your view, being that you're in leadership? And where are we on immigration?
No, I don't think it is true. I don't think the Speaker would do that. Frankly, he's a pretty stand-up guy, whether you agree with him or don't on a given point. And remember, filing is different in every state. So we have people filing as late as July, and we're certainly not going to be passing, I think, anything that controversial and that important between July and Election Day. It just won't happen. I think what the Speaker has suggested is that he wants a step-by-step, piecemeal approach, border security, no amnesty. I mean, amnesty, honestly, not only do I not favor, I'll just tell you politically, couldn't pass the House, and there's no proposal out there that actually embraces amnesty. Now, you might not agree with what they require in terms of background checks, fines, going to the end of the line, waiting 13 years, all that sort of thing. But again, I don't think there's ever any entertainment of amnesty. And there are some smart things that we ought to look at. Seasonal labor that comes into the country to work legitimately for agricultural purposes and leaves. We ought to look at requiring E-Verify, which 40% of the country people that come into the country that are illegal, actually come in legally, and then they just simply don't go home when they're supposed to. So having ways to know that everybody that's applying for a job is indeed a legal citizen, that makes a lot of sense. Obviously enhance border security. We simply don't have control of our own borders at this point. So I think those are the kinds of things that Boehner envisions, and it's something that's dramatically different than what was passed in the Senate. And with all due respect to those folks, remember, only a minority of Republican senators voted for that bill. Over 30, I think, something like that, voted no. So you're not going to get a Republican House to pass something that only a minority of Republican senators support.
So this is not a message that the hiring of Rebecca Talent, who's advocated liberal immigration reform. You don't read anything into that.
I really don't. Now, to be fair, I don't know the lady,
okay.
So I don't want to over emphasize my knowledge here, but I don't think so. I think the House is.
Boehner though, so based on that, yeah.
Again, he's not told us anything like that, and again, I've never found him to deceive members.
Gotcha. One more, and I appreciate your time, Congressman. Really do. We're talking to Congressman Tom Cole, the Majority Whip of the House, Republican from Oklahoma, on the government shutdown, and you were dead set against that. Why couldn't it have been presented before and after that this was the president's shutdown? I know the media would never acquiesce to that explanation, but why couldn't it, you guys have all said, we're not shutting down. You tried. Some of you tried, but you were against it. Why do you even today basically kind of said, yeah, we shut down the government? Didn't the president shut down the government by in an unprecedented fashion saying, I will not talk about anything? And he was willing to go over that so-called cliff based on a one-year delay of the medical device tax. That's how weak your demand was at the end. And he still said, I will not talk. So wasn't it his shutdown? And didn't you guys at the end cave because you wanted to protect the country from the going into uncharted waters with a president who was willing to go there based on a one-year delay in a medical device tax? I mean, I don't understand why it's the Republican shutdown.
Well, I think the president probably wishes he'd have accepted our initial
now,
to delay Obamacare. He'd have been much better off to do what we said. Look, this is just a difference of opinion inside the Republican conference. But number one, when you shut down a government, you do put a lot of people out of work. I mean, thousands, and we're talking defense workers.
Oh, I understand. It's just my question is just who did it.
Yeah, well, I think honestly, okay, the president, you could argue, did it by not giving in to our demands, but. We couldn't get our demands even to his desk. I mean, we couldn't get them past the United States Senate. So legislatively, we had the ability to keep the government open. We let it run out of money, basically spending authority, and that was a political decision on our part. I never thought it was going to work. It's never worked in the past, and it's a tactic that just is not appropriate to achieve the end. I'm all in agreement with the end, but and it hurt us. We were having a very good summer in a sense politically. I mean, not good for the country, but the president had the IRS scandal. He had Benghazi. He had the Syrian
all those phony scandals, Congressman.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, there needs to be some people in jail over those things.
Yeah,
and there will be, but
which one you think specifically there might be people in jail?
Extraordinarily serious, and then I think Benghazi. Anytime you're talking about losing the lives of Americans and the government being dishonest about what happened.
But you think the IRS scandal will result in people in jail?
Yeah, I think it's certainly possible, because I'm not sure people have been honest. But we'll see. We'll see where things go. I don't want to, again, get out ahead of myself.
How about one more? We got a minute. We got less than a minute. How about a special, a select committee on Benghazi?
I'm very much in favor of that.
Why won't Boehner do it?
Well, I think his argument is that, hey, the normal committees have actually done a pretty good job, and they have. But I think the focus, Frank Wolf has got legislation to do this. I'm a co-sponsor of that legislation, and again, there's competing jurisdictions here.
Right.
And I get that, and you have to hire extra staff, and it sort of can cause you a problem. But I think the scandal rises to such a level that it ought to get the attention of a special committee and the complete focus of it.
Gotcha.
And I think we have a much better chance of getting the truth, and I think we know a lot of the truth now.
Congressman,
and educating the American people about it.
And that's the main thing. Congressman, thank you so much for being generous with your time. I hope you'll come back.
Hey, Steve, certainly will. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Congressman Tom Cole, ladies and gentlemen, Republican from Oklahoma, on the Steve Malzberg Show. Lots in there. Newsmax TV.